right, everyone. So today we get to talk about something super, super exciting, which is measuring success, right? When you look at a website, we have so many different conversations with our clients about what they should be measuring to know whether or not their website is holding their weight or if their website should be doing more. So, as we're having this conversation, the people to actually ask at the Red Tree team is actually Alyssa, who's the head of our strategy, and then Davina, who is the head of SEO. And this is the first time, actually, Davina, you've been introduced inside of this series. Do you want to take like 2 seconds to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Davina Ward. I am the SEO strategist and content writer at Red Tree. And yeah, happy to be here.
Producing some amazing results, I will say. We're very honored to have her. So let's go ahead and just kick it off to both of you. You can fight over who wants to answer first, but what's the first thing that you really start having conversations with the clients when it comes to measuring success?
So it can be intimidating. I know, like for our clients, it's probably intimidating when they log into GA4 and they're like, what am I even supposed to be looking at? And I think for me, it's really attaching it back to a goal first. So it's kind of hard to answer this as like a blanket statement. But for some clients, like they're trying to make sales, like they just want people to order things and like buy now on their website. For other clients, they're sort of in this phase of like, they really need to expand their brand, get people to know them, get people to like them and trust them. So, something like that's more, even just views. So just getting people to the website, staying on the website. So if you have like 4,000 visitors, but then they're all jumping really quickly, you can't really count that as a win because you're getting those views, but they're not staying around. They're not getting to know you. And that's the goal that you were attaching to it. And I think a lot of people, they go right to like some kind of purchase or some kind of form fill. I mean, that's not always what you need to be looking at. Um, yeah, it just differs depending on what your goal is.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it's always good to hear from the client first and foremost, what they're looking for their website to do. The buy side of it is really great because I have a ton of metrics that I get to look at. You talked about purchases. There's quite literally a metric tracked for purchases. If you happen to be in the e-commerce industry, if you're looking for engagement, visibility, there are those metrics as well, with regard to, how many people are coming to your site, viewers, sessions, all that. So my favorite thing is always to hear, what they're looking for the website to do and then tying those goals back to specific metrics and kind of explaining, hey, here's what this is going to show. So here's what you can do with that information.
Yeah.
Well, I think you both brought up a good point, right? So we talked last week about creating that job description for a client. And we hear all too many times where people want increased lead generation, right? So let's stay there for like 2 seconds. So someone wants form submissions built out. That's the goal. We understand that that's the goal. How do you guide clients to create goals leading up to that end goal of lead conversions, whatever it is that you would want to call them? And then even additionally, Davina, I'd love for you to talk about, the sort of first step is increased traffic. So how do you measure what is considered like a good amount of quality traffic that Alyssa was talking about versus you're just playing a numbers game and getting 12,000, visitors into a site per day?
So I would always say that it starts with establishing a good baseline. And if we are coming in and saying, the client comes to us and they say they want more traffic, we're going to see what the baseline is of the existing product or page. And if we're starting from scratch, we're going to establish that baseline either using competitor information from third-party tools such as Ahrefs, or we're going to simply gather the information or the data ourselves. We're going to let it, launch, and then, hey, are people engaging with this? Are they not? But I would say it's a very long journey from point A, which is the user coming from wherever they may be, to let's get them downloading a file or form. That space in between is always going to be mapping the journey. So let's say they're on their computer, they start at Google. Let's say that just starting at the search bar, figuring out what they're going to be searching, knowing what their pain points are, what perhaps they're starting with their problem, perhaps they're starting with the solution. Maybe they're starting with, hey, I'd like to get into plan elder law care for my aging parent, they're going to possibly be searching, do I need to set up a trust? Do I need an attorney for this? That's understanding, where they're starting from, and then getting them to probably the resource that you have created for that. So just really mapping the entire journey from start to finish.
But I think you bring up a good point, Davina, right? Where it's like the baseline. So we have really fancy dancy tools that says there is only a certain number of people searching for how to set up a will for my elderly parent, and making sure that we match those baselines where if someone's like, hey, I want 12,000 a day, we're coming to them and saying, well, listen, the data is showing us only 12,000 a month is being searched, right? So we're going to manage some of that expectations up front.
Right. And I think that's always challenging for customers and clients too, because trying to explain a little bit that, Google doesn't show the same results for me as it's going to show for you or Alyssa. Um, and when you're trying to kind of work with the personalization and customization that Google's trying to offer its users on, their end, and then also trying to find out how you can kind of get to that point, that's always going to be very challenging. But certainly something that can be driven by data.
And that's actually even been exacerbated a lot more with the adoption of AI, right? So we're definitely all three going to get different results if we're asking for the same question because AI knows what all three of us want, very similar to what Google is saying or what you were saying about Google. So, Alyssa.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that, that I think that's what makes it so great to have someone like Davina on the team, or like having a partner like Redsheet come in and help you, because if you're doing all this work on your website and you're doing all these marketing efforts and you're like, why am I just not getting the results that I want? I think it's helpful for somebody that's like thinking about this, researching it, like knows the ins and outs, to come in and kind of set those expectations so that okay, this is realistically what I can see, what I can hope to gain from this. And they're not like, oh, I should have had 100 downloads by now, when really, it's probably one or two downloads. So yeah, just having someone to help you like just reset and know that you are doing the right thing and you are headed in the right direction. It just may take a little longer than what you initially think. And that it's not just you, we're all playing against Google and playing against AI now. And yeah, it's not that you're not working hard enough or you're not doing the right things. It's just, you just have to like take your time with it and, um, yeah, just keep steady with what you're doing.
So that brings me to my last question, right? So, we've been talking a little bit about, Davina sort of managing some of those expectations, figuring out the traffic that comes into the site. We have frequent conversations that everyone's looking at lead generation as that final goal. Alyssa, can you break down some of the tracking, or even Davina, some of the things you would track to measure that inevitable flow, right? So the user experience of how we're getting someone from a blog post, someone from a homepage to that final result so that we can start to measure success over time.
I can get started just Google Analytics, a great tool, free. Love that. It has a really great report under explorations that can really show a user's journey through your site. You can even choose what page you want to start at, where you'd like to end up, and really map their path. And I would say that's super, super helpful from just a data perspective and understanding that journey.
Yeah, and I think I would say too, this goes back to what I started with, is like it definitely depends on what goal you have in mind. And I think breaking it down to goals makes it less intimidating, because you can say, okay, right now I'm working on this part of the goal. So there's probably like an overarching goal, a larger goal, and then there's probably mini goals that are leading up to that. And instead of trying to focus on all of it and look at all the numbers and you don't know where you're supposed to be looking, if you just take it step by step and say, right now I'm doing this part of the process, and this is the number I'm looking at. So you're only looking at one number, you know what you're looking at every time, and you don't have to feel like you need to know GA4 front and back. You just need to stay focused on this piece of it, and then once you accomplish that, you move to the next goal. And you just take it step by step, because I think it can be really intimidating if you feel like you have to know everything about SEO and Google Analytics, and yeah, doing it all at once is too much.
Yeah, but even thinking about, for example, we might look at a conversation with a client who does want increased leads, right? And once we're figuring out, all right, what is a user looking for? We might be able to easily identify, well, they want to see our case studies. They want to see the outcomes that we've gotten for other people. So if we know that end result is lead generation, and then we really start thinking about what does a user need to see? They need to see case studies. And then after that, they want to see how big your team is. So what we can do is start setting up events inside of Google Analytics that says, all right, of everyone that comes into the homepage or all traffic in general, how much of that traffic is going to the case studies? And if that number isn't good, right, because we're tracking that intermediate step, then how can we look at the design? How can we look at the overall user experience to say, are we giving them enough opportunities to get to the case studies? Are we hiding that? And can we go in and can we do some of that? And as we see those case studies increasing, but oh no, now we're not seeing people go to the contact page. Again, it's back to a user experience of, are we giving them an opportunity to click over to a contact? Are we making it super difficult for them to get to that last final point? But if we really think about the user journey and what someone needs to see before they convert, we can start setting up events inside of Google Analytics that says, hey, we're falling off here, much like Davina had said with the exploration, but we need to set those markers and those event tracking inside of Google Analytics.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the good part about that too is then you know what to fix and when. So you can make those small changes and you don't feel like, "Oh, I just have to like redo my whole website because it's not working, something's wrong." You sort of know those small changes that you can test. Maybe it isn't, you change the button color, it's still not working. That's okay. Try something else. And it gives you more of a guide of where to put your focus so that you're not just bouncing all over the place. Like, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. You stay focused on that path that you've already set for yourself.
And we've had other clients too, where even if someone's not coming in from a homepage, setting up that path that you're talking about, again, looking at some of the data, we have one client who majority of their traffic comes in through their blogs, right? So Davina's writing amazing blogs. And, well, if Davina's writing them, like there's an intention of, hey, I'm going to get a user to go to that next article or, maybe connect up to services. But when we originally took over the site, we weren't sure if the level of traffic coming into the site wasn't engaged because we weren't giving them an opportunity to look at more blog articles or learn more about the company or even like sign up for a newsletter, or was it because the users weren't right? So like this is another where we can start to measure some of that success of, all right, well, if majority of our traffic is coming into blogs, are we giving users an opportunity because the engagement rate is so low to go to that next thing? And like how can we start to create, again, intermediate steps, knowing full well that everyone wants those increased leads, but are we actually setting up success for the overall user experience? Anything else you all would want to add before we jump off?
I just want to say a website is a wealth of information. We just had some cross training yesterday. Debs usually handle Google Tag Manager, but it's really important for me to know as well how much information can be gathered from a site. So kind of going back to what you're saying, you could even get down to things like, hey, someone scrolled 60% of the way down this page. What in that 60%, didn't get them to the full 100% if you have your, CTA or, next step that you want to take at 75%. So I would say, yeah, never underestimate how much data can be gathered from your website.
Yeah, and I love too that you have so much more control with website. Like we are talking about how we're up against Google and we're up against AI, which is true, but like we have that control where we can start writing blog articles about a certain topic because we know that it's tied back to the psychology of the user that we're trying to reach. We can really easily make a button change or add a call to action further up the page. We can pull any data point that we want to from our website where, with these other marketing things, no hate to anyone else, but like social media and other things, it's just more difficult to really have that control over who's seeing your website and what data we're able to use and see. So I just love that about the website so much.
Yeah, and these days, that's what I keep telling everyone is, I mean, websites are that's your own channel, right? You get to make all of those decisions and track everything that you want. To your point, when it comes to outside things, it's like they share the information that they really want to share. So it just gives you so much more ownership for sure. Awesome. Thank you both so much. I know we're going to be talking a lot more throughout this series. Can't wait to share more insights from both of you. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.